Hi, good morning. It is Fitness Friday, and I'm excited to have Steph King with me again as we're going to talk about just ways to get in shape at home since the gyms are shut down. And actually, Steph, I just read this morning that 59% of Americans say that when their gym membership comes up for renewal, they're actually not going to renew because during the time when the gyms were shut down, they found all sorts of ways to stay in shape and get fit at home. So save money, I guess, but it
Mhm.
doesn't, I think that's been one of the silver linings, if you will, of the whole stay at home and shut down. So we're just finding new ways to do things and ways to save money. And that's always a good thing.
Well, it is. And it's interesting because so many of my clients that I see where I was seeing one-on-one in person, we've now been able to pivot into this beautiful way of, okay, what are some other things you can be doing on your own? Let's get outside if you can. Let's go ahead and get some equipment that's not just going to sit there and collect dust and laundry. And so it's been a really interesting time to really have people get creative and realize they can do this at home. And it could be extremely cost effective.
Well, I mean, back in the day, before there were gyms where people would actually like pay money to go work out, I mean, people would work on farms or,
Mhm.
I think we were a much more physical society and people just stayed in shape and stayed fit just through the course of their daily life. And then at some point we got away from that. And that's why we needed gyms.
Right. Well, I'm a Montana girl. I grew up on a cattle ranch in the middle of nowhere. So my gym were the county roads. That's where I would go for a walk or for a run or helping outside. I mean, there was fences to be mended. There was stuff just to do outside. Picking rock was one of the things that you would do. So you're right. We have come a long way since then and having some other opportunities to not have to do that. But I look at my grandpa. He was the fittest man I've still seen to this day, and he never once stepped foot into a gym.
No way. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they didn't really back then. So,
No. Mm-mm.
so what I want to talk about today is not that was an awkward transition, but it kind of was. I'm kind of like getting used to this whole new Facebook Live thing. And by the way, as you're joining, please say hi. I would love to say hi. And any questions that you have about getting in shape and losing weight at home, please let us know. And Steph is a fitness professional, has been a trainer for many years and still trains people like every single day, and she would love to answer any questions that you've got. I mean, I could maybe talk a little bit about my personal experience, but trust me, you want advice or stuff. So what I was wanting to know, so we talked about walking last time, and
Mm-hmm.
I've been going out for like walks and runs, and I did try what you were talking about, the interval, so where you walk and then you run. Is there an ideal time? Let's say you've got 10 extra pounds, right? You're trying to whittle
Mm-hmm.
down the waist. What would be the ideal amount of walk/running to do in a day if you were going to be consistent about it and do it every day? What's your target?
Well, it's interesting because if running, walking is a part of your everyday movement, because I highly suggest finding a way to move your body at least 5 days a week, at least. Not hard every single day. Pick a couple of those workouts every single week where you do increase that intensity. So if you're just a walker, and I don't mean just a walker in a derogatory way, but if your body isn't happy in the running aspect, what you can easily do is just do a slow interval. Then what you'll do is you'll increase that interval and that speed. You'll pump those arms. You'll get your biceps and shoulders and your posture built. So as you start to feel more comfortable and your body gets used to that, a really great interval is where you're pumping for 4 minutes and you're recovering for 1. So as your body feels that, a couple days a week, do that. As you are maybe transitioning to the jogging running aspect of it a little bit more, then maybe you're running or jogging at 4 minutes for 4 minutes. I don't care what the speed is. It's just the idea of challenging that heart rate and then walking for 1 to recover. I've done this for a long time. I have always included a 1-minute walking interval every single time I go running. And my body can come back and check. I can get my breathing under control. So I at least suggest 2 runs a week that are more challenging.
Now, I was reading something, and I'm just like kind of fixated on the belly fat.
Oh, sure.
Because that's kind of how my quarantine snacks manifested itself. But one of the things I read was that if you're not getting 8 to 9 hours of sleep at night, then your body is going to store fat in the middle. Is this true? And what are some things you can do if you're just not getting that 8 to 9 hours of sleep? How can you help that situation?
You know, it's really funny. I think sleeping the correct amount of time has kind of been on the back burner. That is literally the first question I ask my clients when we meet for the first time is, tell me about your sleep habits. How many hours of sleep are you getting a night? And they've really started to do some sleep research, and it is showing 7 to 9 hours is absolutely necessary for adults. Children are obviously more than that. But the reason is like you're saying, you're spot on. Cortisol, our body wants to protect itself at the end of the day. It wants to hold, protect. The stress of the times right now is getting stored with those cortisol hormones. All of that stuff is getting stored right in the middle. So if you're finding that 7 to 9 hours does not seem realistic, I challenge you to ask yourself, what would it look like if I went to bed earlier? What kind of bedtime routines can I put in place that will I will look forward to going to bed earlier? A really big one, we talked about this last week as well, getting rid of that phone. Getting rid of that phone at least 1 hour before you want to close your eyes and really sleep. Maybe you set a candle and you change your lighting, but everybody needs 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. And then you will find that allows that appropriate amount of time for the body to start repairing itself from the fires and the inflammation of what's gone on during the day.
So is this something too that you can't just be like, oh, I'm going to get my 4 hours of sleep tonight, but I'm going to catch up on the weekend. I'm going to sleep all weekend. Is it something like the exercise? It's got to be consistent every day.
It is. I will tell you, the daily habits we establish are not for the easy times. They're for the times that are hard. So I think back when my daughter was a newborn, and I would have to get up and go to my studio at 4:15 in the morning. And I was getting, 2 or 3 times up. I was getting up 2 or 3 times a night. And I thought, I can function off this. I can function off of this. We think we can until you start getting appropriate amounts of sleep again. And then you realize, no. I mean, and not to say that this was why I went through a cancer diagnosis a couple of years ago, but I will say that that subconscious stress is really catapulting in our bodies. And so sleep has got to be a major part of everybody's wellness game, if not the number one priority to get in check first.
So let's say you got your sleep dialed in and you are walking, running every day. What is the next level to kind of pare down that belly fat and get more in shape so your clothes fit better?
It's interesting. There's one, this is my opinion, but there's a lot of research that supports this. The one muscle group that you can safely work every single day is your core. Now, your core is loaded. It is your low back. It is your transverse abdominis. There's all sorts of different muscles that I don't need to necessarily explain to you, but it's all through the middle. So if you want to think from chest line down below the hips, that whole area can safely get worked every single day. So if people really want to focus on what's going on in the middle, it comes down to 2 main things. You're probably not going to like it, but your nutrition is 80% of your success of whittling through the middle. Making sure that your calories are in check for you. I come from the belief that a calorie in, a calorie out, that whole philosophy doesn't mesh with me anymore, but it is a matter of finding quality calories. A calorie is not just a calorie. But once you feel like you're getting your nutrition in check, and that's a whole other discussion to have at some other time, is what can you do for your core that's safe? That it does include back strengthening. One really easy way, if planking is not something you're familiar with, work on your posture. A really great way to work on your posture is making your shoulders go up, back, and down. So that's going to bring the shoulders back. Okay? A lot of us do this. A lot of us are at our computers more than ever. A lot of us are driving. So if you think anytime you can go shoulders up, back, and down, that's going to help strengthen through the back. It's also going to help shift your pelvis slightly. So that's all going to start working, especially below the belly button, which is a big area that so many of my clients come to me for. Like, how do I work below the belly button? How do I work here? Work on posture first, And then start tapping into what does it mean to plank. Planking is a really great comprehensive exercise that works every single muscle. So it's really about finding ways to imagine that you're wearing those skinny jeans. Let's do a little pelvic tilt. If you're driving, imagine a sucker punch coming right at the belly button with that posture we just talked about, but keep that belly pressed into the back seat, the back of your seat. And so there's little things you can do every day, and then just start to gradually build. If you're a TV watcher, maybe during the commercials, you do some focused core work. Know that you can work your core safely every single day.
Now, something where I notice that I'm working my core is when I'm hiking, especially if there's like rocks, like an uneven surface, I find myself trying to balance. Is hiking an effective core workout?
Absolutely. In fact, if you have the opportunity to hike, and I don't necessarily, 5 miles up, 5 miles down, anything that's going to cause unstable surfacing for you to walk and step on, you're going to work the smallest, tiniest stabilizing muscles in our body that you don't even realize you have until you're done with that hike. So what it also does, a couple of things that maybe people don't realize, is your posture comes into play when you're hiking, if you really want to focus on your core. So you can do that shoulders up, back, and down. And when you're climbing, what you want to think about is what's going on with your feet. So you want to hit a heel toe. A heel toe will transfer to work to the back of the legs, called the hamstrings, and the glutes, which is the booty, and through that low back. But what most people don't realize is when you go downhill, so many people complain about their knees. So what you want to do is, instead of leaning back because you're scared of misstepping, you actually want to lean slightly forward, shoulders up, back, and down, lean slightly forward, and it changes your foot position, and you're going to find that that helps strengthen the core as well. So throwing those into your workouts in whatever capacity you can even use a set of stairs to work on some of that philosophy as well. And just make sure that you're being really mindful of your form, not going too fast to where you feel that you're too unstable and that you're going to slip. Little ways that you can start implementing this right away.
So what kind of a workout could someone do on their stairs? Let's say somebody's got a 2-story house. They got, stairs in the middle there. How could they utilize that to be more fit? Because, that's right there in your house. You don't need a gym for a stair climber. You got stairs right there in your house. What can people do?
What I like to do is, I even find myself doing it subconsciously anymore. Figure out how you're stepping on your stairs. If your feet are small enough with your stair, make sure you're landing on your heel. That's going to work, again, the back of the leg, called your hamstrings, and your glutes. So people always go, well, what can I do for my glutes? Land on your heels on your stairs if you can. As that gets more comfortable, maybe you work on speeding up how quickly you can go up as singles. Another thing you can really do is imagine that your stairs are basically a bench or a step. Maybe you take 2 at a time. So what that's going to do, again, your posture comes into play. You lean slightly forward because you need a little bit more gusto to get up that higher level, and work on that as well. So you can set up a clock for 5 minutes and say, okay, I'm going to do just 5 minutes of stairs, or maybe you're speeding it up and you walk safely down. Another thing to keep in mind, just before I forget, is I've run marathons forever, and your knees are always sore. So if you just suffer from knees not being a marathoner, what you can do is, if you can safely go downstairs backwards, that'll protect that what they call runner's knee pain that happens. So if you're going, I can't really do stairs, there's a chance that you probably can, if you're willing to be creative and work on going on downstairs backwards.
Interesting.
And then one more thing while I'm thinking about it, go upstairs sideways. So you're working inner and outer hips. So go sideways, step all the way up, come down, and then switch your direction, go up and come down. So we can get all sorts of creative. There's no excuses as far as I'm concerned.
What are some other areas of the house? Since we're talking about using what you've got around the house already for being more fit, what kitchen cabinets? What can you use around your house in other ways like that?
I use my kitchen counters for push-ups. So if I'm cooking dinner or cooking lunch or breakfast for the kids, it is not uncommon for my kids to see me doing push-ups. There's a way to do push-ups incorrectly. So you definitely want to make sure you're doing it right. When you're doing a push-up, you want the stretch to come across the chest, not over the shoulders, over the face, so you're not looking down. You want to make sure it's open. So I use that. I also use a coffee table. I'll do some dips, or I'll use it as a chair to kind of know how deep to go into some safe squats. You can also just use the ground. The ground is definitely no excuse, where you can do some more core work. You can actually just grab cans from your pantry, do some bicep curls. And it doesn't have to be for 20 straight minutes. If you have just 2 minutes to do something, those 2-minute segments add up. So whatever you can get in and you're willing to do, it's going to help change the body, because your body will not be able to predict what's coming next.
Oh, hi, Sonia. Sonia Levine just popped in with a question. Did she miss the part about how to lose weight just tuning in? Hi, and thank you for tuning in, Sonia. So you actually didn't, because we're in the middle of it right now. Were you more interested in like a nutrition angle or exercise angle? Because Steph knows so much about all of it.
Well, I mean, we could tap into nutrition a little bit. Again, this is a conversation to have a different day, but this is, again, my philosophy. This is what I find to be true. I cannot stand the word diet. So when people go, what do you think of this diet? I go, I think it's a bad idea, because to me, the word diet means your livelihood dies. So I think once we're in a mindset, you find that you're going to crave the things that you're supposedly not supposed to be having. So everybody's biochemistry is different. So what works for me is not necessarily going to work for you. It's not going to work for Sonia. It's not going to work. But it's a matter of finding those foods, and you know what works for you and what doesn't. If you're really listening to your body cues and knowing that 90% of your food intake needs to be viewed as fuel. Like I mentioned a little while ago, a calorie does not equal a calorie. And what I mean by that is I don't count calories. I find that can be really, really tricky, because people will choose foods that are not good. I will tell you right now, the evil part of nutrition across any eating platform is sugar. Sugar is something that really needs to be looked at, and it is snuck in foods left and right, whether we realize it or not. But if you're getting good, wholesome food that does not upset your stomach, that's a really great way. And if you're moving your body every day, there's a way that you're going to be able to pay attention if your clothes are fitting better. I also mentioned last week, ditch the scale. Don't rely on the scale. Muscle does weigh more than fat. So a lot of people get hung up on a certain number. So if you're just going based on how your clothes fit, and you're maybe changing up your workout, every 3 or 4 days in some capacity, your body is not going to be able to predict what's coming. So that plateau that we all hear about is less likely to occur.
Now, I've actually known people that, in fact, a long time ago, I had a hairstylist, and, it's like 6 weeks between visits usually. And I went one time, she looked normal. I went back, she had lost a lot of weight. I asked her what she did. She had cut out sodas and sugar, and that's really all she did. Can you really lose a dramatic amount of weight just by cutting out sodas and sugar?
You can. So people might not like this opinion, but you may see on a soda bottle 0 calories, and you'll look at the ingredients. That is made somehow. So it's a matter of, okay, what are they making that delicious soda with? So whatever chemically we're adding to our body that is basically man-made is something to think about. Sugar is huge. Sugar causes inflammation in our bodies. So perfect example with my cancer story 2 years ago. Rabbit hole. And the universal conversation across all platforms is cancer cells feed off of sugar. So it really does cause havoc. So when people eliminate it, and maybe it's not cold turkey, that's not realistic. But if you start to take away some of it, maybe you're a big soda drinker, maybe you drink 4+ sodas a day, maybe you cut, what's it like to have 2? Maybe instead of having dessert every single night in some capacity, maybe it's actually viewed as a treat and you have it once or twice a week. Little ways to actually just start moving in that direction is going to make a huge shift.
Yeah, I'm glad you bring that up. And that might be why I've got so much quarantine 15 around the middle, because during the last, during this pandemic time, I have been craving sugar. And I think that's that emotional eating, where if you can find ways to relieve the stress and anxiety, then maybe you don't turn to food and bad foods, sugary foods, to make yourself feel better.
Well, and I'm a big believer in that. What I have found to be true for myself is, and I grew up, one of my favorite traditions with my dad, every night we had ice cream together before I went to bed, from when I was a little girl all the way through high school. So I loved that tradition, and I still love the idea of that tradition. But what I have found with all of my research and changing even how I was taught in college is if you have sufficient amount of protein and fats in your diet, you're not going to crave sugar. You're going to be satisfied. Your body's going to be satisfied. Your organs are going to be nourished in other ways. The sugar cravings go away. And another big thing to think about is just don't buy it. You know, if it's not there, and so many of us are just, I would say, mindlessly eating right now, maybe out of boredom, or maybe we're eating, we don't even realize we've taken 5 extra handfuls of this, that, and the other. If it's not in the house and it's not in your vision and you know it's not there, that's also going to put your mind in the mindset of, I don't really need it. And how often are we going to go out every single day and just go straight to the grocery store just to buy the candy or the ice cream or whatever? It'll make a lot of help. It'll help a lot.
It'll help your budget, and it'll help your waist line. Well, Steph, the time just flew by so fast. Yet again, people can visit you online to get more tips and even find out more about the online classes that you teach, where you can demonstrate some of these exercises. Wellness Squad Collective is on Facebook. You can just do a search for Wellness Squad Collective. Other places they can find you?
They can find me also on Instagram. So my account is private there, but go ahead and just put in a request and I will add you. But I do Zoom classes during the week. They're small group. They're great accountability. They're 30 minutes. They're the interval type of workouts that work really nicely if you are feeling that you want to lose a couple lbs. But I'm happy to help. DM me with any questions, and I'm happy to just assist in whatever way you need.
Awesome. Well, thank you once again. And always good tips, challenging tips.
You might want to hear.
No, it's good. It's good. I mean, this is where like nothing worthwhile comes easy, right? There's always going to be a little bit of work in anything worthwhile. So I got my work cut out for me for the weekend. More sleep and no more sugar.
There we go.
All right. Well, thank you. Have a great weekend.
You too. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.